now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening, I hope you're doing okay. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian restaurant located on St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's for an authentic Italian meal. Today's show is also being brought to you in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold, and you can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this very show. Just visit BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Find out why I'm so adamant about getting Tom Molyneux's story told. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by our new 24/7 television network. All the information can be found at GinicoUSA.com, GINIKOUSA.com. Watch our show and other stuff we've done over the years, like all of our Billy C's Boxing Revisited and a lot of special other events we've done, all on this network. You can watch it on Roku and all the other streaming platforms. Just visit Ginico USA for all the information. Sergey Kovalev, well, he returned to the ring. He looked pretty good. We're going to talk about that and some other fights on that card. What a crazy, let's start off by this. What a crazy situation. I mean, first of all, you got to tune in to one of the 47,000 ESPN channels to watch some of the fights. Then you got to go to the other one. Now, if you really were following the Bouncing Boxing Glove yesterday, you would have went on to ESPN Plus first to see the undercard. Then you would have had to switch over to ESPN to watch two of the events. Then you would have had to switch back to ESPN Plus to watch the main event. And, oh, by the way, they had 6 commentators, okay? 6. And that doesn't count the corner guy, Bernardo Osuna. So, I mean, I don't know. I think it was a little bit overkill. But nonetheless, Sergey Kovalev regained a light heavyweight world title. He improved to 33 wins, 3 losses, and a draw when he won a unanimous decision over the now former world champion, Eleider Alvarez, who drops to 24-1. The way the judges scored it, 116, 112 twice, and one judge had it 120 to 108. Personally, I only gave Alvarez 1 round. Let's see what Sal Rocky Senacola thinks. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, Billy C. How are you?
Oh, not too bad, brother. Not too bad. What'd you think of the fight?
Well, I definitely, like I said, after the last Kovalev fight I saw when he lost to Alvarez, I said he's done. And it just goes to show, any given night, anything could happen in the ring. He didn't look well after that first fight, and he was stopped. He ran out of gas. And it was almost, I don't want to say quite a repeat, because in the 7th round, I gave that round to Alvarez. And that was the round that he got knocked out in the last time. But needless to say, if I had to force Alvarez to get another round, I may have given him the 11th. But other than that, I had to score 118 to 110. And Kovalev looked good. He looked good. He didn't look great, but he looked very good. He was solid. And why? Because he was busy. This is what he should have done all along. This is the Kovalev that we expect to see. He countered. He went to the body. He mixed it up. Kudos to Buddy McGirt. He was a master trainer. He was a master fighter. And, he gave him the instructions. And guess what? Kovalev listened to those instructions. When he was told to move to the right out of the way of Alvarez's hand, he did that. When he was told to box, when he was told to go to body, he did that. So he listened to his trainer. He fought a good fight. He let his hands fly, and his ring generalship saved him. And I'll tell you what, he dominated that fight. And you know what? Don't be surprised if there's going to be a rubber match for whatever sake it might be.
Well, they're talking the possibility of him with some of the other titleists, but he's still not the same fighter. And I agree with you. Buddy McGirt, I've always said, you know, Buddy McGirt is an underrated trainer. Now, where I've, you know, he's a no nonsense guy, you know, and he knows how to win. Now he might might not be the trainer that like a Freddie Roach, for example. He's a go sick 'em boy type trainer. He wants you to attack, which makes for an exciting fight. That's why a lot of people think he's such a great trainer. But he's very one-dimensional. Buddy McGirt has got the old Al Davis from the Raiders. You know, his philosophy is just win the fight. You know, similar to my friend John Scully. He's the same way. You know, why risk anything when you're winning the fight? Floyd Mayweather had the same mentality. You know, so you know, is it fan? You know, do the fans love that kind of fight? Not so much, but a win's a win. Sergey Kovalev back with a world title. As far as his style under Buddy McGirt, boxing more, we've seen him box well, Sal. The problem is when you hit him back, you know, he's the ultimate definition of a bully. You know, he'll walk all over you if you let him, but you punch him in the face and he backs off. We learned that when he fought Andre Ward. We learned that in his first fight with Alvarez. He seemed to, and just to interrupt myself, the one thing that I think he really bought into Buddy McGirt, Sal, is Buddy kept telling him, relax, be patient, don't get excited in there. Don't get excited, stay calm, is what he kept saying. And I think Kovalev was staying calm. What's your thoughts?
I thought he was, and you know what? There was no real sense of pushing the desperation button or the urgency button. He went through that fight in a very good fashion. He was stable, and you know what? Kudos on his conditioning. Like I said, he almost had a repeat because I think that 7th round was the toughest round for him. He got caught with a couple punches from Alvarez. And Alvarez obviously has some power, and I think he shook Kovalev. However, I give Kovalev a lot of credit. He took maybe 1 or 2 rounds. He pulled back a little bit. He got a second win, and I thought he closed pretty well. I thought he sustained a good level. Like I said, he fought going backwards. He fought going forwards. His jab was busy. He went to the body. He came with that choppy right hand. He hit him with a hook. It was definitely Kovalev's night. And, you know, like I said, the tutelage of Buddy McGirt and the instructions, that was a good relationship between fighter and trainer. And I have nothing bad to say about this performance that night. Now,
as far as conditioning, I think that he was in the best shape I've ever seen. As far as being not winded, I didn't see, even in the final couple of rounds, when, you know, I forget which announcing team, they kept switching everybody out. As a matter of fact, you know, as a matter of fact, during one time they had a mistake. They had a guy delivering popcorn and they threw a headset on him, and all of a sudden they were like, "Wait a minute, who the hell are you?" Yeah. But I didn't think he was tired. You know, the thing was that Kovalev, every time they threw the camera on him in the corner, I didn't see him breathing hard. I didn't see him fighting with his mouth open. I saw a well-conditioned guy, and one of the comments that were made that was made by one of the announcers, I lost track of them, was that the first thing Buddy McGirt did was he didn't want him to overtrain, and one of the commentators, I think it was Timmy Brown, was saying, you know, he himself had a tendency to overtrain. And when he got with Teddy Atlas told him, hey, you know, we sparred for 12 rounds. Take a day off. and he said it really helped him, and he thinks that the changes in the training regimen of Sergey Kovalev, incorporated by James Buddy McGirt, has helped him, and I thought it showed. I thought it showed true in the fight, Sal. As a matter of fact, Alvarez seemed more tired, even though he was the younger fighter.
Well, yes, I think you're right, and I think he is younger by a year or two. He looked a lot younger, but I'll tell you what, we learned a couple of things in that fight. That Alvarez is missing a couple of knuckles on his right hand. I didn't know that. And also, did you know, Billy C? And this shook the hell out of it. Did you know the championship rounds are round 9, 10, 11, 12? One of the commentators said in round 9, this is the championship rounds. We're going into the championship rounds. It blew my mind. So
well,
I'll do it that way.
Since they got rid of the 15 rounds, I've always thought, because by definition, the last 3 rounds are supposed to be considered, quote, championship rounds. So that would make, if you count on your fingers, that would make 10th, 11th, and 12th. So, I mean, how about your fingers? I mean, let me count them. Is it 10, 11, 12? Yeah, I would think that. But the truth of the matter is as far as that goes, if we had 15 rounds, 15 3-minute rounds, the complexion of the sport would be so much different. But
incredibly different. And I wish we could put a push to get that back. And you know what? Would I settle for even one more round, make them a 13-round championship fight? I would like that better than what's currently a 12-round fight. But the 15 rounds, those championship rounds being the 13th, 14th, 15th round. Look at how many fights were won by opponents. Whether it was Ali Frazier, whether it was Leonard, whether it was, those were the championship rounds, because that's when you rise to the occasion. I mean, I just wish they would go back to the 15th round, at least a 13th.
We're not gonna. I mean, you're not even allowed to. Today's the Super Bowl. You're not allowed to tackle quarterbacks. I think they're gonna go to 3 Mississippi next year. We've become a bunch of wimps. But anyway, as far as Kovalev is concerned, I thought he looked good. Now, as far as how he will fare against some of the other top light heavyweights, I think he's the odd man. I can't see him beating Bivol. He still doesn't like getting hit to the body. Interesting comment was made during the fight. Another thing about the body is he doesn't really deliver any body shots. No. And I'm saying to myself, I thought I recalled at one time that he lost several points, at least two, during a fight for low blows. And, not to be confused with all the low blows that Andre Ward laid on him. But the truth of the matter is he seems to have abandoned work in the body, and he wishes that his opponents would abandon work in the body because he doesn't like getting hit in the body, Sal. I mean, you hit him in the body, and it seems to neutralize him right off the get-go.
I agree with you 100%, and that would have been the strategy that I thought that Alvarez would have tried to do, because I think he did it a little bit more so in his last fight. But, like I said, a win's a win. He looked good. He was dominant, and we'll see what's left now. I don't know if I read it or I heard it, but all 3 of the major belts now in the light heavyweight division are held by Russian fighters or that block of countries out there?
Ukrainian, yeah. I listen. Ukraine, the truth of the matter is they're better fighters. I mean, they fight each other. I don't even want to go down that path right now. We'll start. We'll get to that a little bit later. But let's talk a little more about some of the other fights. Now, technically, if you were breaking down the broadcasts, the co-main event for Kovalev, even though it wasn't considered the co-main event of the evening, but the fight that led us to Kovalev Alvarez featured Teofimo Lopez, and he fought Diego Magladeno. If you missed this fight, you really need to go back and watch it. Teofimo Lopez is a kid to keep an eye on for sure. Diego Magladeno is no slouch of a fighter, and this was a good fight. Lopez is showing us why he's such an interest. A lot of fans have so much interest in him. He's an exciting fighter, and he finishes the show. Now, in my opinion, he dominated Magladeno. He did slow down a little bit, but he dominated. He picked it right back up. And the end of the fight came at 1 minute and 8 seconds of the seventh round when Lopez just nailed Magladeno, knocked him down. He tried to get up. He started going backwards, couldn't work his arm the way he should have, and the fight was waved off. Lopez improves to 12-0 with 10 knockouts. Magladeno he lost his third fight. He's 31-3 now with 13 knockouts. One thing that ruined the performance for Teofimo Lopez, in my opinion, was him doing the home run swing over the fallen body of Magladeno. Now, normally that kind of thing wouldn't upset me in the past, but when you're looking at the way the fight game is today, and everybody's looking out for it, that's a show of unsportsmanship, and I didn't think he needed to do that. The point was made and well taken that he dominated and finished the show. I think that's going to cause some bad blood. What was your thoughts on the fight, Sal?
Well, you're right. Exactly. I can't really even say too much more or expand too much more on it. You were absolutely right there. And, we want to see humble winners. We want to see sportsman-like or sportsmanship in the ring. There's always a great union between fighters that leave it all out there in the ring, and at the end of the fight, they at least acknowledge and respect one another, and as I think they all should. But it was a good fight, and to that degree until the end. And I'll tell you, I was curious to see how that Italian fighter, which I know you're going to talk about, was going to do, and he didn't fare too well. But, just finishing up with Teofimo Lopez. As Chris Meyer would say, I mean, he showed some ringmanship himself. I can't stand that term. It's ring generalship, Chris Meyer. Ringmanship. Yeah. Oh no, that's right. It's not. No.
It's ring generalship. He was saying it's ringmanship. And it's like, get somebody that knows this.
Get that from?
Where are they getting some of these people from? I actually liked the team of Joe Tessitore, Andre Ward, and Timothy Bradley. I thought those three were great. I can't stand Mark Kriegel. Why they had to go to I just want to know why first of all, 3 broadcasters is well enough. Okay, you got your blow by blow guy, the main guy, theoretically. You got your analyst. And then you have a perspective from normally a former professional fighter, or even at times a current professional fighter. I like that, and
format.
I like 2 personally. I think a blow-by-blow guy and an analyst that could have been a former fighter. 2 people are perfect. The third guy, depending upon who it is, can bring something to the show. But do we need 3 more? Do we have to go and get 3 opinions from the guys that are ringside and then pass it up to the booth where you got 3 more guys sitting at a table getting the same thing? We're getting 6 opinions. And oh, by the way, you got the roaming reporter, in this case, Bernardo Asuma. He's in the corner. I just think it's overkill. I just don't get it. I don't get it. But Teofimo Lopez, a guy to keep an eye on. Let's talk a little about the WBO featherweight champion, Oscar Valdez. He improved to 25-0 with 20 knockouts. And he, too, is with a new trader, Eddie Reynoso, when he beat Carmine Tomasson. and Tomasomi, I should say, Tonasoni, who drops his first loss. They made a couple of comments about Tomasomi, and he said, they said, well, he doesn't really look like a fighter. He looks like a race car driver. He wasn't fighting like a fighter, in my opinion. You know, when I think of Italian fighters, Sal, and I'm sorry, but when I think of Italian fighters, I think of tough, gritty, you know, come at you guys. Now, granted, a lot of the Italians that we're talking about, like in the 50s and beyond, were you know, Italian American fighters. You know, when you go back to the 40s and 30s, the Italian fighters were all tough. I mean, just brawling, tough, entertaining guys. And then it kind of took a turn. And what you see now is you see these Italian fighters that try to be boxers. They can't take punches. They're lovers, not fighters, Sal. I mean, you know, we saw that with the fight yesterday with Carmine Tomasoni. What did you think of the fight?
Well, just what you're saying, I'll expand on a little bit. Tomasoni, he didn't really look too much like a fighter. Certainly not like an undefeated fighter, but you knew who the B-side was when you saw him with only 5 KOs out of all those fights and victories. And I predicted the fight wouldn't go the distance, but he didn't look like his legs were underneath him. He didn't look like he was balanced. He didn't look, and he looked like, well, Valdez was just effective. He was cutting the ring off. He was moving forward. I liked his style with his hands up. He's compact. He was explosive from the position. He threw combinations. And I don't think Tomasoni ever really had the opportunity to gain a momentum or a path or so. And he came up as it was predicted or so that he was going to be knocked out. And certainly that punch in the end, it was a beautiful short right uppercut. And it caught Tomasoni, and it was lights out. Like, what the heck hit me now? But, you know, back to the drawing board for him, and we'll see what's next for Valdez. But definitely, Valdez dominated that fight. It was no question who was going to be the winner.
Yeah, well, Tomasoni, first of all, he has a good jab. And the thing, but that's all he's got. And you know, Oscar Valdez, you make a great point, because if you go back and watch some of his earlier fights, he didn't keep his hands up. His defense was suspect. It's clear that he worked on his defense. But you made another interesting point that I agree with you. That's what I said. I said I agree with you. I said I agree with you. You know, 100% that the A and B sides of all, with the exception of Kovalev Alvarez, all of these cards were clearly labeled A side, B side. And the thing that bothered me wasn't that, because most of the time, you know, most of the time we know who the A and B sides are. But what was starting to bother me all night last night was how the commentators, all 7,500 of them that were involved in these shows, were also very biased. The way that they were calling the action wasn't what was really in front of them. I think the sign of a good commentator for boxing is calling the action that's taking place in front of you. These guys were publicists. They were all talking favorably of the A side. And everything that the A side was doing, you know, whether it was good or bad, they would comment on. The B side was, he just happened to have been the other guy in the ring, and, you know, it was just a matter of time. Now, we'll get to some fights that took place on Friday where they started off like that, and the fights didn't end up that way. But did you notice what I'm talking about?
Yes, I did, Billy. It was so true. And I'll tell you, like I said, even during, I think, the Kovalev fight, the female was saying how, well, this is what we were seeing, dominance by Kovalev, but we believe that some of the sports writers around us have it maybe a little closer than what we thought. You know, so you know, it is subject to an opinion, but heck, you know, you hopefully majority of the people are using the same tools or the same foundation or the same boilerplate, the same mold of how to judge and score a fight. It's not always the truth, and that's not always holding true because it's subject to human error and subject to opinion.
Well, if boxing is subjective in a lot of cases, but my point was that, it just seemed like the commentating was geared towards the A and B sides, not even you don't have to get to the you don't even have to get to the scorecards to hear them. I mean, if I always put myself in a situation where I say to myself, if I didn't know anything about boxing and I was flipping through the channels and I stumble across one of these, what would I take from it? And the way the commentators build that show and discuss that show, you're going to think the A side is Superman and the B side is, somebody that just was, on the corner, just, having a bagel and a coffee and they threw him in the ring, I mean, I don't know. But some other fights, I tell you, I was shocked to see this go as quickly as it did, but Richard Comey. Now, I said Richard Comey was a good fighter last week. We were talking about him. I thought he was going to have a little more trouble with Chaniev, not because Chaniev is a power puncher, because there was the guy with 5 knockouts. He had 5 knockouts coming in, and the winner of this fight gets, I don't know if it's an award or what, but they get to fight Vasily Lomachenko. But Richard Comey made quick work of Isaac Chaniev, stops him in the second round with a beautiful shot that put Chaniev down and out 39 seconds of the second round. He was in some serious trouble in the first round. It was clearly a mismatch in this fight. Sal, did you get a chance to watch this one?
No, I did not. I did see a couple of highlights on a reel this morning, but no, I didn't see that one. We were slammed last night, Bill, and again today for Super Bowl. Forget about it.
Well, the Chaniev falls at 13-2. Was more of a boxer that was supposed to be more of a boxer, but Richie Comey did what he had to do, and I like this kid. Despite who his trainer is, I really like him. So we'll see what happens.
I'll my eyes on him in the future, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, he's definitely worth it. Just to get through these other fights that took place over on the other side of the pond, there was a triple header that was pretty good to watch. If you had the chance, undefeated European junior middleweight or super welterweight, whatever you want to refer it to. I know depending upon the sanctioning body, it's the same weight class but called different things, like tomato. But Sergio Garcia, who was the European champ, improved to 29-0 with 13 knockouts when he scored a unanimous decision over formerly unbeaten Ted Cheeseman, who drops to 15-1 with 9 knockouts. It took place in London at the O2 Arena, a place I would always love to go. The way the judges scored it, 119-109, 2 of them. And then one judge had it 115-14. So, for everybody that thinks it's just on this side of the pond that we get these crazy scores, not so much. It happens on the other side of the pond, too. It always makes me wonder about those scorecards, Sal. You see 2 of the judges pretty much seeing the same fight as most people, and then that third judge, well, just for kicks, we'll just call him, the plant judge, the corrupt judge, the judge. How does she even still? Don't even get me started on her. She hasn't.
Let's nickname him from now on Adeline.
Yeah, because she shouldn't even be scoring, and she has.
No,
but nonetheless, Sergio Garcia, look for him to get a world title shot his next time out. Also on that card in the cruiserweight division. Now, we here in the U.S., we don't, which is wrong. We don't really put the cruiserweights as high as I believe we should. To me, cruiserweight is basically a heavyweight of yesteryear, and it's an exciting division with a lot of talent. Just worldwide talent in the cruiserweight division. If you're not a fan of this division, and you're here in the U.S., give it a chance, because these guys are quality. Just like a young fighter last night in London, Lawrence Oakley, he improved to 11-0 with 8 knockouts when he took care of Tomas Lodi, who drops to 20-12. 3 rounds, put him on the canvas 4 times. This is a kid to keep an eye on, because you'll see him with a world title around his waist at some point. And in the light heavyweight division, another guy you're going to see soon because of the division itself. And quite honestly, this fight was an extremely, aside from the main event between Garcia and Cheeseman, this was a very even fight going in. Craig Richards improved to 14-1 with 8 knockouts when he stopped Jake Ball, who only loses for the second time in his career, in the 3rd round. Ball hit the canvas in every round. He drops to 12-2. So a pretty entertaining card over from London, Sal.
Absolutely. And, that's what we usually are expecting now. And they are. They're competitive. They're entertaining. And these guys come to fight. So what else could you ask for? They're good crop of fighters.
I could ask him to cut my lawn, put out the garbage, but that ain't going to work. But on Friday night, there was some pretty decent fights on Showtime. Now, these fights took place in upstate New York, not upstate like where I am. I'm upstate East Coast, and then other people refer to upstate New York like Buffalo. I refer to that as Western New York, but Rochester. Now, I know how... I know how cold it is here, but they were complaining how cold it was in this arena on Friday night, in the arena, in the dressing rooms. I mean, that's a dangerous situation, Sal, for fighters that are, cold. You're supposed to loosen up, build up a sweat in the dressing room, but even a walk that goes from the dressing room to the ring, and then the time for all of the introductions and, this one and that one and this whole thing, you cool off. I mean, that's not a smart thing. I mean, I don't care where the location is. They should maintain, at least considering the fighters. And by the way, if I'm a fan, I don't want to have to keep my snorkel jacket on while I'm sitting in my seat either, But nonetheless, this was a night of fights where the favorite, the A side, was supposed to come in and win. And, the scouting of the opponents might have been not that great. They were evenly matched fights, reminiscent of the Showbox Next Generation of yesteryear, which I loved. Right. In the main event, DeAndre Ware. Now, if you're a football fan, you're saying to yourself, where have I heard that name before? Well, yeah, because he was a superstar in college football, started in the sport of boxing late, and seemingly, at least at this stage of his career, is heading in a positive direction, more so than most converted football players. He was fighting Ron Ellis. Now, Ronald Ellis is a name in the division where... a lot of people were waiting for him to become that next guy to get a shot in the light heavyweight division. And I'm sorry, I think it's super middleweight. But Ronald Ellis dropped to 15-1 with a couple of draws when Andre Ware came out with the win. He improved to 13-1. The way the judges scored it, 2 of them had it 96-94 in favor of Andre Ware, and the other judge had it even at 95-95. It was a close fight, but DeAndre Ware, his aggressiveness and the fact that he was landing the harder punches won this fight for him. This fight could have been scored either way, Sal, because Ellis seemed to have landed more jabs, and they weren't little mosquito jabs. They were decent jabs. And you know how people always go to those punch stats? Well, this is a clear indication of the fight was closer than the stats were. And the reason though, was that in the beginning of the fight, the first half a dozen rounds, or at least definitely the first 5, Ware was totally dominating Ronald Ellis in terms of punch output, landing punches, body work, etc., etc. As the fight wore on, Ellis started to dominate a couple of rounds. He won several of those later rounds, obviously, but the punch stats never really went in his favor. So when you look at the punch stats, the right guy won, even though they weren't really. You could throw 100 punches in the first round and land 95, and then not throw a punch again for the rest of the fight, and still lead on punches. You know what I'm saying? I mean, sometimes it's not. It's not legit.
I do, and what was going through my mind as you were describing that so carefully. You did a good job. It seems like so many things today are judged or can be predicted using these algorithm kind of techniques or methods. And I don't mind telling you, my legalized gambling is stocks and options and all this. So these guys use all these algorithms to try and calculate a certain level of risk. But you know what? The last thing we need in boxing is an algorithm kind of punch stat to help people judge a fight or come up with a score. And that's exactly what you're hinting to on that level, because you could see how those punch stats could almost mislead in the calculation of round by round if they're continuing on an additional momentum of gaining the punches each round, which might not be as significant as some other rounds. Like I said, it's a vicious cycle, and you got to keep the human element in the game.
The other fight on that card that was a bit of an upset is the Madeira Matisse fight. Madeira improved to 13-0 with 2 knockouts, and this was a short notice fight for him. And he won a decision over Matisse, who drops his first fight of his career. So, I mean, there was a couple of upsets in that fight. There was actually some other fights on the undercard that were interesting. So, but nonetheless, I wanted to stick to the fights from last night. But some good stuff Friday and Saturday, pretty much on the dominating network, Sal, which, it's become, I was thinking when I was watching Top Rank, and how they built their alliance with ESPN. Could you imagine if Top Rank and Eddie Hearn's Matchroom Sport, they built an alliance? I mean, boxing would be so. Oh my goodness, it would be great. I mean, it would be
the dominant alliance. I mean, it would be basically like, hey, this is our group here. And it would be so much in favor of it would be great.
It would be boxing, because Golden Boy kind of works a little bit with Hearn now, and Top Rank has always been, they want their own, but I'm not so sure Top Rank has the quality stable that Eddie Hearn has at this point. So it's going to be interesting to see, and don't count out Richard Schaefer. Richard Schaefer's back in the mix, and his World Boxing Super Series is great. So he's going to align with one of them. I think it's going to be Eddie Hearn, but we'll see what happens. But we're going to get Alex Papali on with us in a little bit, Sal. But I have several emails that I wanted to read and get your thoughts before we get back to the Kovalev fight, because I do want to talk more about that. But this was from our friend Jesse. And he gives his predictions of this fight. So we'll see how he did. He says, here's my picks. Well, he was like you. His first fight, he says, here are my picks. Alvarez knocking out Kovalev late. Sorry, Jess, you were wrong on that one. Richard Comey, split decision over Isa. You got the right guy winning, but it was a knockout and a blowout fight. He says, Valdez, unanimous decision over Carmine. You got the winner right, but it ended sooner. Teofimo Lopez, late stoppage over Diego. You got that right. He says, I expect movements from Valdez such as defense, better boxing, patient, no wasting punches, and sticking to his game plan. You hit that one right on the head, Jess. That's exactly what I saw with Oscar Valdez. He says Kovalev will be done after this fight. Supposedly, I heard that Kovalev doesn't treat people good, and he doesn't pay his sparring partners well. He doesn't take boxing serious. If you don't take boxing serious, it'll come back to haunt you. You know, maybe that was some rumors that were spread around him. You know, he was conceived as being invincible, the Crusher. You know, but you know, his invincibility. Well, his invincibility was questioned and went out the window when Andre Ward beat him twice. He, you know, has gone through trainers like you know, Sal goes through pizza guys, and you know, the funny thing is I think he's got his the right guy in his corner right now. And we'll see. I don't know how much longer he has for his career. He's no spring chicken. He really doesn't have anything else to prove. I've always thought that it's smart to go out on top, and he's got a lot of tough light heavyweights that have belts, specifically Dimitri Bivol, that'll just, you know, I don't think he fares too well against Bivol. But anyway, Jesse says, Billy, I agree that Josito had his chance to finish Keith Thurman in the 7th round. He didn't cut the ring. He overthrew his punches, horrible technique, no jab, no defense, no head movement. Still gets hit much too much. Footwork slow. He's not patient. But I love him. I mean, I'm right. He's right. All of those things. But I love Josito Lopez. He says Thurman versus Pacquiao next, or the winner of Ugas versus Porter, and Lopez versus Broner, or the loser of Danny versus Granados. He says Lopez needs to improve and not revert to his old self, especially defense, overswinging, etc. I don't know how much is left with Josito Lopez. He's been in a lot of wars.
A lot of wars, man.
Yeah, and as far as Keith Thurman, you know, if Pacquiao doesn't get the Floyd rematch, I think Pacquiao beats Thurman. The version of Thurman that we saw against Josito Lopez is not going to beat any of the guys. I said it last week. He's not going to beat any of the top fighters. He certainly can't beat Terrence Crawford. I don't think he beats Manny Pacquiao. I don't even think he beats Danny Garcia or Sean Porter in rematches. He's just not the same fighter. We saw it in his 2 fights before the Josito Lopez fight, which I talked about last week, against Danny Garcia and Sean Porter. I felt he lost both. You know, so Keith Thurman wasted the prime of his career. He had a lot of opportunities with you know, that he couldn't fight because of, you know, questionable injuries and questionable accidents. I think he pissed his career away, to tell you the truth. The reason why he wants Manny Pacquiao so bad is because he's cashing out. Let's be real. I mean, that's looking like he's cashing out, Sal. And if I'm Manny Pacquiao, I like that fight if I don't get Floyd. And all Floyd's doing is sitting back. He's gonna say I'm liking retirement, and he's gonna force Manny Pacquiao to fight Thurman, and Thurman's gonna connect with Pacquiao. There's no question. Then after that fight, providing Pacquiao wins, then Floyd will be like, okay, I'll fight you. And you say to yourself, well, Pacquiao got older, got more mileage on him. I mean, anybody that values Floyd as a legitimate fighter, a smart businessman, positioning and all of that, you can't deny it. A talented fighter, can't deny it. But he's certainly not the type of fighter that goes and proves by fighting the best of the best when they're their best, you know. And I give Manny credit, a lot of credit, for fighting at this age. And even though he's not the same Manny Pacquiao, he's still fighting at a high level. And I think he beats Thurman. I know you feel the same way, right? Or no?
You know, I'm not sold on that, and I'll tell you why. I like Manny. I respect Manny, and you know my position. I said his only fight he should have came back for, the only thing he needed to prove, because this guy's already been to the mountain and back, is to get in a ring with Floyd Mayweather. Now, if that fight doesn't happen, yeah, I think a Thurman fight would be ideal. I think it's great. I don't want to see Fanny. I don't want to see Manny going up against Earl Spence or some of the other upper echelon that I think elitist fighters. But I'm not going to count Keith Thurman out just yet. I mean, it was his first fight back in, 2 years? So maybe he just will give him the. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that the next time we see Thurman, he might be a little bit more, as they say over the pond, spot on. But we'll see. It could be wrong.
Yeah, but you know what though, Sal? The thing is he looked. I agree with you with the ring rust. I agree with you about him being out. But the reason why I think Manny beats him is because the truth of the matter is he hasn't improved. If you're out of the ring for 2 years, and you come back and you fight just like you did in your previous 2 fights, well, then I'm not going to blame the ring rust. If he fought worse, then I'll blame the ring rust. Or if he fought better, you could say the rest helped him. But either way, he did not look. I don't see him getting better. I see the same things with him. When he gets hurt, his hands are down. He backpedals around the ring. He did the same thing in the Danny Garcia fight. He did the same thing in the Sean Porter fight. And Josito Lopez should have finished him off. He ran out of gas. Manny Pacquiao, at this point, I just don't think that Thurman will be able to counterpunch him flushly enough if Manny continues to move. And eventually Manny's hand speed, even though it's slowed down, is going to connect with Thurman. And I don't think Thurman can – I think Manny – even though he didn't cut the ring off properly against Floyd, I think that Manny will do it better. I don't know. The fight is interesting. I do have to admit the fight is interesting. You know,
very interesting. And I'll tell you what, that was definitely a different Manny than what we saw against Jeff Horn. So that's a night and day Manny. And same thing. I'm not going to say that I think Keith Thurman has that same potential because we may have already seen it. But you did make a good point. What we saw last time is what we saw last week, and basically there doesn't seem sometimes that sense of urgency. Like you got to go out there and prove things. Maybe because you are an elitist. Maybe because you think you're going to take it for granted, or you are who you are, and you're going to win anyway. You're going to get by anyway. But any fighter that does that and goes into a state of complacency is going to pay for it sooner or later.
Right. Well, I mean, I just think it would be an entertaining fight, don't you?
It would be. I agree with you 100%. If Manny doesn't get a chance to go back in the ring with Floyd, that is a good fight that I would like to see.
Yeah. I mean, I think. I think we will see it because I don't believe that that Floyd will give Manny the rematch. But to be honest with you, right now, I think that Floyd can't beat Manny. I really do. Not right now. When you look at Floyd's last fight against a kickboxer, an MMA guy, and then he goes and fights that against another kickboxer in Japan, that exhibition. He's just, and it's 2 years gone by. Manny's still boxing. I don't know.
Well, don't be surprised, Bill. You heard it here first. Don't be surprised if you don't hear from Floyd's lips at the end of April or maybe May that he's going to fight Manny Pacquiao. I'm supposed to say why.
I hope you're right because.
You're supposed to say why.
Well, the reason. Okay, all right.
Hint.
Why, Sal?
Well, taxes are due April 15th.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. Sorry, I didn't. Sorry.
Say that one more. Wait, Bill. Say that one more time.
You're right again. That's twice. No, I said no. The first one I said I agree with you.
Yes.
So you being right, but anyway, he says. Let's see. This is still Jesse. He goes. Gerald should retire, and Kauznaki versus Andy Ruiz now that he's with. PBC, Oscar Rivas, Ortiz, Parker, or Michael Hunter. He still needs improvement and improve his option. Miller and Adam are sparring partners. Miller and Adam are sparring partners, so that may not happen. I think that Andy Ruiz against Kownacki would be a good fight. I personally think that Kownacki and Jarrell Miller, even though Jarrell Miller is going to be getting a world title shot against AJ, which I think is I think it's horrific that this big fat pig who's fought nobody is getting a world title shot. I think that it could be the poster child for what's wrong with the sport of boxing, but nonetheless, he says Jaime still needs to improve, but he's the champ, and he still must improve his opposition. Doubt they feed him Hurd or Carlos. Therefore, Jaime against Charles Hatley, Cedric, V2, Austin Trout, Dennis Hogan, Michael Sorrow, or Brooke. Hard fights for him, but he will learn by experience. Two of those fighters, if he wins, then go after Hurd or Charlos. Charlos are overrated. They're not that good. I would put my money on Jaime Mugaya over either Charlo brother. As far as Hurd's just a monster that takes a beating and you tire yourself out on him. He's a freak. Eventually, he is going to crumble like the old chopping the tree down. But I think Mugaya, they're taken care of, and we'll see what happens. But I wouldn't be surprised if he does fight one of those secondary type fighters for sure. Thanks for the email.
You heard it here first.
Right. We got another one I'm going to read real quick, and then we will. This one is from my man Matt. Matt Quinn is a good. He's Western New York. He's a good follower of this show, and he likes to get under my skin sometimes. Even though one of these days I'm going to go fishing with him. I've been invited to go several times. Just Matt didn't give me enough notice, but. He says, hey, Billy C., Miller versus Joshua at Madison Square Garden is the rumor. Billy, you got to go to that fight. I want Big Baby to win just because your show would be the greatest recording in history of sports media after that. LOL. Like I said, Matt knows how to get under my skin. But the truth, not Matt personally, but I'm saying he knows how to push the buttons. But the thing is this: I just touched on it, and timing is great. But the truth of the matter is Jarrell Miller, and not even kidding. This guy does not deserve a shot at Anthony Joshua. Now, for Anthony Joshua, you can't blame him for taking the fight the reason why is because they did give Jarrell Miller some kind of a title. I don't know if it's interim or whatever, but it's some kind of a title, which is a joke in itself. But Anthony Joshua is going to make his $20 million because he's under contract, so he'll make his $20 million even though he's fighting in New York. And he's going to knock out Jarrell Miller. Jarrell Miller does not stand a chance. I think Kownacki will knock out Jarrell Miller. Jarrell Miller is just a big fat pig. He's got the thing about Jarrell Miller that is interesting is that his punch output is so great. He does throw a lot of punches. That's why I think the Kownacki fight would be very interesting because Kownacki throws a lot of punches too. But the thing is a guy like Jarrell Miller, I think he's 6'4". He's going to be giving up substantial height and reach difference to AJ or Deontay if he fights Deontay or Tyson Fury if he fights Tyson Fury. So, and when you start talking about a guy who's 6'4", 6'3" as a small guy, as a small guy. And I know he's got the weight behind him because he weighs. I think he steps on the scale at 650. But so he looks kind of he's like 650 pounds. That fat pig.
No way.
He's kind of like Humpty Dumpty. He's got the physique of a Humpty Dumpty. He makes Tony Two-Ton Galento look like Twiggy from the 60s and 70s. But the truth of the matter is he doesn't stand a chance with any of those top heavyweights. And for him to get a payday just because of his mouth, is pretty sickening. And they're going to say that he's going to be the draw for that fight because he's a New York native. I think honestly, it's one of the worst parts of boxing. You know, they're talking about Dillian White getting a shot again at Anthony Joshua, and they had already fought once before. But Dillian White earned it. He climbed the ladder and got some big wins under his belt. He earned that fight. You know, you got to be able to earn the fight. Luis Ortiz is a fighter that fought and lost to Deontay Wilder in an exciting heavyweight fight, had Deontay in all kinds of trouble, couldn't finish him off. And he's climbing the ladder again. He's fighting a couple of decent fighters. He's scheduled to fight again. He would be more of a legitimate, give him a shot at Anthony Joshua. Dillian White at Anthony Joshua. You know, I just, you know, Sal, you and I talk about it a lot, but a fighter's got to earn his shot, not be handed it.
That's the way it used to be, Bill. And even though sometimes there were still little private concessions being made here and there, but no, the best thing is when you see a fighter who climbs up the rungs of the ladder to get to the top. I mean, that's the way it always was and should be, and not just be handed a check or payday or an opportunity that he did not earn.
Well, that's the sad part of the sport of boxing, Sal, because it's
out there. No wonder. I mean,
it's discouraging for that young fighter. You know, so when you're a young fighter and you're trying to, from a trainer's perspective, and you're fighting a young and you have a young fighter that's putting in all the hard work, and you're telling him keep doing what I'm telling you, and we'll get you a shot. And then he sees a guy like, Buffet, I can't miss a Buffet, fat bastard Jarrell Miller get a shot for fighting and beating no one. I would think it's discouraging.
Well, it could be discouraging, or, if this guy, look at it this way too, Bill. If this guy, this so-called young kid that has some potential and is working hard and is trying to make the old-fashioned way of working hard, training hard, fighting hard, climbing his way up, I mean, that kind of talent should and could be recognized, and then it's just going to fall in the line of, hey, guess what? I got an investor. I got a money here. Slip this guy this, and I'll get my title fight.
Well, that's no, but that's the way it is, and that's so sad because you got a kid that we're gonna have to take a break, but we've heard the same story for 200 years in the sport of boxing. They came from nothing. Jack Dempsey wore his sister's clothes to school because they had no money. Fighters that went to barefoot, I think Sonny Liston and Joe Frazier never had, shoes until they became fighters, stuff like that. And they used the sport to lift them out of poverty. And today you got those same kind of people. In today's world, obviously poverty isn't as drastic as it was, but it's still bad, and people still use it to lift themselves out, or try to use boxing to lift themselves out to a better life. And there is, the hard work aspect isn't in their favor. They got to sell their soul to a promoter or a manager in order to get that shot, and it's terrible. It's terrible. It's the dark side of boxing, similar to the book Black Lights by Thomas Hauser, featuring one of my best friends, Billy Costello, who's no longer with us. Great champion. Listen, we're going to take a short break. Sal's going to go get another coffee and maybe use the toilet, and we're scheduled to get our man Alex Papali on. So don't go nowhere. We'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. they put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you!
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show, man. Come on. What do you, of course you're watching and listening to the Billy C. Hey, you want to watch us 24/7? Go to our 24/7 TV channel. You can get all the information, see where it's playing. I know it's on Roku and most of the major streaming services, but go to GinicoUSA.com for all the information. You could sign up, create an account. It's for free, of course. GINIKOUSA.com. Joining us right now to tell us all about his thoughts on who should fight Manny Pacquiao. No. My man, Alex Papali. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Billy C. How are you?
You know, I always keep my fingers crossed to make sure I just don't see the lips move, but I can't hear what he's saying, you know. But anyway, Sergey Kovalev beats Eleider Alvarez last night. Before we get started, did you find it as painstaking as I did jumping back and forth from the networks? I mean, geez. And how many announcers do we actually need? There's 6. I was saying to Sal earlier, I think 2 is enough, okay? 3 adds just a better dimension. I did happen to like Joe Tessitore with Timothy Bradley and Andre Ward. or Dre, as they are calling him now. But you know, when you have to go up to the other three up at the table, and you got Bernardo Osuna in the corner, I just think it was a little much. I mean, what's your thoughts?
I thought the worst part of it, I thought, was that they spent an entire evening teasing us on regular ESPN to have to go over to ESPN to watch the fights that were occurring in the exact same ring behind them, that was a little annoying but you know, I guess it's not surprising. They're trying to sell their app. But that was the part that I think bothered me the most. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of different perspectives. That does seem to be, it's like the pay-per-view model, it seems. Like there's the three guys at ringside that throw back to the guys who are at the table that's further away but in the same arena.
I know.
They've done that for a while now at pay-per-views.
Only Showtime.
Well, and Showtime, usually it's the same three guys.
I know. It's the three guys I can't stand.
Right. Maybe there's one different guy in that other group. But, yeah, I don't know. I disagree with you on Mark Kriegel. I thought he was really good last night. The Dre stuff was funny because the first time that they called Andre Ward Dre, he broke out laughing. So I thought that was pretty funny because I don't know if he was ready for that. It was almost like, oh, you're going to call me Dre? Well, all right.
You know, he's good. He's good. I'm not. You see, I like Andre Ward and Timothy Bradley. I think they're excellent. As a matter of fact, Timothy Bradley studied broadcasting in school. So, I mean, he does bring something. I think they're trying to get him more as the guy. But I don't like Kriegel. I know why you like Kriegel, all right? Because, you know, he's Larry Merchant. He's Larry Merchant.
Well, that's what I like about boxing.
I know.
Even though boxing is simple, I like people to draw connections to complexity and to nuance, and he's good at that. I don't know. I thought that I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. I thought Max was maybe a little bit more upset than he needed to be about that the Shanaev stoppage. And he could have just waited a few minutes or an hour because the Magdaleno stoppage was even more ridiculous. So I don't know. But
why was the Magdaleno stoppage ridiculous?
Oh, I thought that whole – I agreed with what Andre Ward said, is that whole seventh round never should have even happened.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because, I mean, there's no way. He wasn't getting up from that. But we'll get to –
it was awful. That was just – and then that he's counting, that was just crazy.
Well, that was Mark Nelson, right?
No, it was a guy – it was a Mexican guy who I didn't
Luis Pabon? I thought he was in. I got them all confused because they kept jumping all around.
It was. Referee Gregorio Alvarez.
Oh, okay. Well,
I've seen him before, but he's not somebody that just comes to mind. And yeah, he just seemed like he was reacting way too late to everything. It was almost like he was watching the fight.
Well,
rather than being, realizing he had an impact on it.
Well, let's jump back and before that, I just want to comment on Kriegel. Unlike you, who's a literary genius, and me, I not so much. But I would prefer boxing to be dems and dos and D's and don'ts. I think it just matches better. I'm sorry, Larry Merchant used to always try to drag it out, and I understand that there is a cool connection, when you talk about it in such a educated way. But Kriegel, I like boxing people to be involved with boxing. It's the only sport that lets non-boxing people infiltrate it. If you look at any other sport, With the exception of the main blow-by-blow person, any other sport, all the other people that are involved are, that type of person. NFL people, football people, baseball people, tennis people, hockey people. I mean, the only sport that'll let some guy in that's a non-boxing person is boxing. So, but anyway, Sergey Kovalev comes back with Buddy McGirt, and you, of all people, know that I love James Buddy McGirt as a trainer. What was your thoughts on the fight?
I thought it was tremendous. I was very surprised because I kind of am mad at myself a bit because I don't like to sort of go along with the conventional thinking, and I did buy into the narrative that Kovalev was done. That maybe this was main events trying just let's get Buddy McGirt in there and see what we could do with this guy, but that he's damaged goods. And that they were just sort of going through the motions with the rematch clause. That was not the case in the least. I didn't think he had the character to do what he did last night. It was awesome what Buddy McGirt did with him. It's almost as if, and he did mention at the end that he said, Kovalev said, I don't know if you stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning to listen to the interviews, but he did say that he fought more like an amateur. And that was clear. And that was one of the things that I kind of wanted. It occurred to me when Max made a big deal about the fact that Kovalev wanted to touch gloves after the foul in like the 3rd or 4th round, and Alvarez didn't. He was trying to draw this conclusion that shows the bully is no longer a bully. I thought, okay, maybe, but it also could be that he's in a different mindset here. He's looking at this as a contest, and he's boxing, and he's going to box his ass off all night and stick to a strategy.
Wait a minute. Let me ask you a question about that, because that's a great point. Did you think of that after the fight? Because obviously...
No, I thought of it in that moment because I said, wait a minute, because I was talking to a friend of mine. I was saying, wait a minute, I'm not sure I agree with Max on that, because so far at that point, the way he was boxing was lots of punches, and he wasn't thinking about, it didn't appear at least, that he was going to war like he usually does. That crusher mentality of, I'm here to destroy a guy, I'm going to break a guy down. He didn't seem to be doing that. He was varying the rhythms on his punches, and that's almost, it's a much more of a strategic way of fighting that I thought, well, wait a minute, Max, let's hold off on that judgment because he might not be in that same mode tonight. And it certainly appeared that he was not. I thought Buddy McGirt did a great job. I thought he did a great job. I thought he's an anxiety fighter, that he's either in the destruction mode or he's scared and he's coming apart at the seams. That's what we've seen happen to him against Andre Ward. But we realized, at least I realized, it seems that that's only going to happen when he fights the elite. And maybe he was overtrained, whatever happened that last time. But he showed he could take Alvarez's punches very well because he took several of those great big cannon blast right hands. And, they did nothing. And he showed that he had he definitely has more in him. I don't know. I don't quite think Bivol is the destroyer of the division. I think Kovalev versus Bivol would be a decent fight. So I don't know. But I was pleased to see that he really sort of rediscovered, the boxing of his youth. And you got to give Buddy McGirt credit for that, for definitely getting him to a relaxed place where he could sort of be the old Kovalev. And it seemed kind of like he had fun in there. And he's not a guy, he's kind of a, angry type fighter. But last night he was all smiles, which I haven't seen in a while.
I don't think he's the old Kovalev, because the old Kovalev is the guy that couldn't do this.
Well, I think old Kovalev, the way he was saying, like old Kovalev back to the amateur style, like the guy who first started boxing. I mean, I've never seen that, but that's, he definitely fought in more of an amateur mode last night.
Well, he fought he clearly listened to Buddy McGirt. Buddy McGirt's mentality is not a fan. Fans don't love that style fight. We like to see destroyers go in there and get a knockout. I mean, come on. I mean, that's what we all like. The people that enjoy watching a boring fighter like Floyd Mayweather, run all day long, and they try to tell you that that's the sweet science. That's what they love. If that's what they love, more power to them. But to me, the masses like to see systematically a fighter systematically break down their opponent and close it with a knockout. I mean, that's the sport of boxing. And Sergey Kovalev, under the tutelage of Buddy McGirt, similar to our friend John Iceman Scully, who I've had many discussions about. Their mentality is just win the fight. Win the fight. Don't worry about the fans. Don't worry about a knockout. A knockout will come if it comes, but the bottom line is you win the fight. You throw more punches and land more punches than your opponent, and oh, by the way, try to avoid some shots. The one knock I'll have on Kovalev, and I did enjoy his boxing, and I thought that his conditioning was outrageous. I've never seen him not huffing and puffing. He did not huff and puff for 12 rounds in that fight. I was a little surprised that they weren't going over the top with that. But that's a huge improvement for him. He seemed to run out of gas. I also supported and believed what Timothy Bradley was saying, that he himself knew what it was like to overtrain and improved his stamina by not burning himself out in the gym. They saved some energy for the fight. But the one thing I'm still unhappy with Sergey Kovalev is, Alex, is the simple fact that he doesn't throw very many punches, very few, to the body of his opponents, which would break down their opponent. And conversely, he doesn't like to get hit by body shots. So that's a big problem. If he steps up and fights a guy like Dmitry Bivol, who works the body, he's in trouble. Unless he's like Mayweather and makes a rule before the fight that you're not allowed to hit to the body and makes his fighters go by that. I think that's still something that needs to be worked on.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's true across the board. Everybody should go to the body more. But I thought, last night it worked for him. I think one of the things he was doing well was he was using distance very well, and that was something we haven't seen in a while, where he was taking just these little steps back that were forcing Alvarez to sort of set up again. And while he was trying to set up, then Kovalev would come back with the 1-2s. And you're right. I think that is, trainers like McGirt and John Scully, I think there's a lot to that, especially when you have a big, strong guy in front of you. Don't try to go for a knockout. Just let your hands go. A guy who's as strong and big and as strong as Kovalev, the knockout's going to come. If you keep landing, you're going to do damage. And I think that was where, at least we've seen the nights where Kovalev has sort of come apart, is that he sort of had to be in that headspace where he realized, okay, I got to fight to win, not necessarily fight to survive. This is a contest. It's not a war. I think that really worked for him last night, that mindset. And, I mean, even in that before that last round, I thought the advice Buddy McGirt gave him, I mean, McGirt really, a fighter's all alone for those 3 minutes from bell to bell. But McGirt, there's no doubt about it, you saw a different Kovalev in a lot of instances last night, and I think you got to credit Buddy McGirt for that. But the thing he had said to him before that 12th, he said, he's going to come out rough. You stay relaxed. Use your jab. And that was great because it was just, one bit of advice, use the jab, and he was telling him what to expect, and he was doing it in a calm way. I don't know. It's cool to see that McGirt and him seem to gel. We'll see if they continue to work together. But going into the Hall of Fame induction, it's certainly some nice gravy for James Buddy McGirt's career, because it definitely makes him. He did. It was the first fight he worked with Arturo Gatti, which was, I think, Tehran Millette. And Gatti looked great that night. So I think tonight, last night, Kovalev really looked good.
Yeah, he did. But I don't know. Do you think he's going to continue along these lines?
I think so. I hope so, at least. I think that's the thing about Kovalev. The rumors about him, it does seem that, and this is not surprising, fighters tend to be an arrogant bunch, that, he wants to do what Kovalev wants to do. And maybe, he thinks, I got enough out of Buddy McGirt. I don't think so. I think they should keep, working together, because I liked what I saw last night. But, that remains to be seen. I'm sure Kathy Duva is going to recommend Buddy McGirt stay there.
I don't see why they would get rid of him. I mean, I really don't. You see, first of all, I just got to jump here and give a shout out to my man Joel. He just gave us a super chat. He said he wanted to know if I was interested in the bare knuckle fights. Unfortunately, I didn't see it. I guess there was a pay-per-view on it last night. I honestly didn't see, like I was just telling him in the chat room, I honestly didn't see any commercials for it. I do like bare knuckle fighting. I just wish that it would be real bare knuckle fighting. If they're going to do it, let's do it. And I'd like to see younger fighters in it. But thanks to my man Joel, he's going to keep me up to date on it. But Alex, getting back to Kovalev, Kovalev. And I do kind of agree with the bully mentality, nicknamed the Crusher, and people scared of him and stuff. And, once that persona is erased, the bully comes out, and like a true bully, you punch him in the face and he crumbles, and so I do agree that at one point, he had the bully persona. I think he showed us last night that maybe he doesn't have to have the bully persona.
Exactly.
Right, and I think that following the bully persona, he loses a fight. The first thing a bully does is not hold himself accountable. Okay, so the first thing he did was fire the people around him. Because he won last night, and because something seemingly has clicked, whether it was 100% Buddy McGirt forcing the clicking, or if it just was, both of these guys being at the right place at the right time, I can't see Kovalev letting Buddy McGirt go unless he lost. Then you would see him change those socks again, And as far as Kathy Duva is concerned, I love Kathy Duva. I think that she shows some spine. She sticks with her plan. She doesn't let these other promoters or networks push her around, and I was glad for her. I think that she has been very loyal to Kovalev, and likewise, Kovalev seemingly has been loyal to her. And I was happy for her. I was glad to see her in such a positive mood, and plus she still looks pretty good. But I think Kovalev stays with Buddy McGirt.
Yeah, I hope so, and I think you're right. And I think what Coach said, that Kovalev versus Rosdick would be a good matchup, not only in terms of it's a unification bout, but also you'd have the dueling brain trusts of Teddy Atlas versus Buddy McGirt, and that'd be kind of cool.
Before we let you go, I wanted to get your thoughts on a couple of the other fights. First and foremost, Teofimo Lopez against Diego Magdaleno. Talk about a knockout. I love this kid. I think he's everything that the hype suggests he is. The only problem is, when you look at the way fighters are today, Alex, and how calculated they want their opponents to be, who the hell's going to want to get in the ring with Teofimo Lopez after what he did to Diego Magladano last night?
Yeah, he's a pretty destructive guy, big puncher. I do think that it was a little classless.
100%, 100% classless.
The way he acted, especially to a guy that appeared to be in a lot of trouble at the point when he was gloating. The other thing that he did that I didn't care for was that little behind the back slap. He's not Pernell Whitaker. Because if Pernell Whitaker did that, he'd land a legal punch. It would have gotten there by an illegal method, and he'd get the warning. But he'd hit you with the knuckles. He hit him in the face with the laces. So I don't know. It just, some of that I didn't care for. But in terms of the business of breaking a guy down, I mean, what's not to like? It's scary. I thought the funniest thing of the night was as good as Richard Comey looked. That is a hell of a prize to win. Yay! I won. Now I get to fight Lomachenko.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah. That's what I said. I said it out. It's like, all right, now he just earned a fight against Lomachenko. I went, oh God, that's a bittersweet. I mean. Couldn't he win a shot? Couldn't he say, "Well, now I won a free trip to Disney World. I'm happy about it." But
it's like going from the Matrix simulator to fighting a Smith.
Yeah. Well, the thing is though, he'll get a payday, and hey, he could change the course of history. Teofimo Lopez, when he did the home run thing over Diego Magladano, was classless. I wasn't happy with that. That double left, boom, boom, that put Magladano out was beautiful to watch. I like the kid. For somebody with 12 professional fights under his belt, he's going to be a guy that may end up in the ring with Lomachenko himself at some point. And let's not forget, Magladano is no slouch of a fighter. This was a huge jump up in class for him, and he took it well. One other fight I wanted to ask you about was you have to jump back to the normal network of ESPN, but Oscar Valdez took care of Carmine Tomasoni in 7 rounds. Tomasoni, like I said to Sal, looked more like a lover than a fighter. But Valdez improved. He did improve his defense. Again, you have to base it on his level of opposition who he fought last night. But this is another kid that you got to love. I mean, he's been in some wars. He's young. I think he is, getting better. What was your thoughts in that fight?
Yeah, I thought he looked really good. And I think at times they were shying away from calling that a comeback fight. That absolutely was a comeback fight. He hadn't fought in 329 days, and it was coming back from a possibly career-ending injury. Whenever you come back from a massive injury like that, that's a comeback. So I thought he looked very good. There's definitely a future with him. It's like he picked up where he left off, which was great. And I liked the way, the mindset he had, that he can't really think about the jaw, because it's just like, if you're going into every fight now worried, oh my God, my jaw. Well, then you're not in the right place mentally to keep fighting. And the part that I'm interested in, supposedly, he has a pet anaconda.
Of course you would love that. But I think he's going to be around for a while. And how about the story? They were playing a pickup softball game, and they clashed in the outfield and went right for his jaw. Everybody stopped. If that would have happened, he running for a ball playing softball, and he collides with another outfielder and breaks his jaw. That would have been a godsend, because if you're doing that and you're breaking your jaw, certainly somebody that has any pop behind their punch would have broken his jaw. Tomasoni did not. But in any event, it was an exciting fight. I looked more for the improvement of his defense because he did have his hands up. Something I don't recall seeing in any of his previous fights.
Right. Yeah, I also enjoyed watching Tomasone from Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah, I know. I saw that in the chat room. I know you really like that.
I had to use that.
Yeah. Yes, that was Alex Papali's material. So if anybody else wants to use it, you got to credit him. But Alex, great job as usual, and we'll look forward to you next time. We do have a couple of decent fights on slate that we'll be talking about next week. So we'll be looking for your thoughts on those.
Sounds good. All right, Billy C. Take care. Hey, enjoy the Super Bowl today.
Hey, who's your prediction?
Anyone but the Patriots.
Me too. Hey, and I'm pulling for the Jets. Oh, that's right. They're not in that game. But I will be going for the.
I like the Bengals.
Yeah. All right, my man. I'll talk to you.
All right. Take care.
That's Alex Papali giving us his thoughts and wanting to get his credit for his material, his comedy material. So anyway. So I mean, the truth of the matter is we've seen we've seen some good out of Kovalev. He very well may not be the Kovalev technically of old, the crusher, if you will. But what he looked like last night seems to be interesting. And to see him progress along with Buddy McGirt is also going to be interesting to watch. As far as him in there with some of the other top light heavyweights, we'll have to wait and see on that. But it is what it is. But anyway, we're waiting. We're going to get Sal back on here as soon as his camera is fixed. And see, sometimes that's all you got to do is just mention that because here's Sal right now doing his a couple of. He threw a couple of shots in the air and he's winded. You better sit in the corner and take a breath.
I'm coughing on a bagel.
Oh, you see, during the break, Sal gets to go and have bagels. He can go to the bathroom whenever he wants. Unlike myself, who sits here and starves and freezes, and I there's no bathroom runs for me. But anyway, well, how about another email, Sal? Can you talk with? And he's washing the bagel down with a cup of coffee too. Must be nice. It must be nice being in Sal's studio right now. Don't take deep breaths. We don't want you to drown on air. But let me.
I don't want to tell you what I had when I just finished a little while ago. We had a last night special, one of the best. It was a crab stuffed codfish over a nice spinach risotto. And I'll tell you what, and with a beautiful, on the side, this cream sauce that complemented the cod very well with the crab. Unbelievable dish. I had it. I didn't want to eat too late. So when I was watching the fights last night, I just had a portion of it. But, today, another day, and I figured, hey, I got a couple minutes. Let me see what I could do. And I did it. It's done.
Well, you know me. Nobody loves food more than me, but nobody hates fish as much as me. So
come on.
Yeah, you know that. I like to fish. I don't like to eat the slimy bastards. But in any event,
you ever taste? Sorry, I don't want to get into some fishy conversation, but have you ever tasted what fish is my favorite? Chilean sea bass.
No, but I wouldn't. The only fish that I don't even like tuna fish, but tuna fish out of the can. But I did have a piece of a tuna steak recently that I liked. So maybe my taste buds are changing, and I will try. Yeah. But I'm not going to dive right in and have some scungeel. Have some of this. Have some of that. Take a snot tasting clam, a nice raw clam like friggin'. Anyway, let's get going here. But
talking boxing, we can talk food later.
Yeah. I got an email from my man Jeff from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. He says, "Hey Billy C, hello to you and all of the Talking Boxing gang." Hello to you, Jeff. We appreciate it. He says,
"Hey Jeff, how you doing?"
He says, "I truly believe the boxing community should be talking big time about Mikey Garcia versus Errol Spence." I do too. I'm in 100% agreement with Jeff here. He says to me, even with Spence's relative inexperience at the top level, this is a super fight based on Garcia moving up 2 weight classes and the huge height and reach disparity. Many believe Spence is a future superstar, and we'll know, and we all know Garcia is a certified superstar right now. Clearly, Garcia must see something he believes that he can capital on to win this fight, yet after watching Linares get blown out by the bigger fighter, there is cause for concern that Garcia could be moving a step too far. Of course, Garcia has only ever demonstrated a world-class chin, unlike Linares, so I'm betting it will not let him down this time either. Hey, don't forget, Garcia's been down several times, I believe. I think he's hit the cam at least twice, if not 3 times, but he has gotten up, obviously, to win. He says, if Spence is as good as we think, we are in for a classic match to showcase the very best of boxing. I have huge respect for both fighters' talents and their belief that they have the superior skills. Until shown differently, I will not bet against Garcia. This is what wanting the top challenges at your peak is all about. I, for one, will talk nonstop about this fight and why it's the reason I love boxing. Love your show. Enjoy every episode. My man Jeff from Bethlehem. Jeff, I am in 100% agreement with everything you've carefully written in your email. Mikey Garcia, for some reason, is not getting the attention he should. I believe that this fight is a super fight, which obviously it is, but I believe that Errol Spence, as much as I'm just like most others, believe that this guy has a boatload of talent and could very well possibly be the future of the welterweight division. I think that he has taken Mikey Garcia lightly. Dax Khan, who's been having some system issues and hasn't been able to join us, has said to me multiple times that he sees on social media Errol Spence changing and becoming that type of guy that believes his press clippings, thinks he's getting better than he's not. And when push comes to shove, when you really take a good, hard, serious look at Errol Spence's resume, Kell Brook is the only big name on his resume. And remember, Kell Brook had been in some pretty vicious wars leading up to that fight. Yes, Errol Spence broke his other eye socket, not the one that Triple G broke, but nonetheless broke one. And we got to give him all the credit in the world for doing so. But at the end of the day, I believe, just like Jeff does, that Garcia and his trainer, his brother, see something with Errol Spence. And like Jeff, I am not writing. I've been talking about Mikey Garcia as a live underdog in this fight since they announced it. And it's hard to go against Mikey Garcia. What makes him win fights is if you throw and land 2 punches on him, he's throwing and landing 6 back on you. He wins every round generally, and that's going to be what he does against Errol Spence. He's going to try to, at least. What's your thoughts on this email, Sal?
I think it's a great email, and I want to say hello to Jeff. He's definitely one of our many knowledgeable fans we have out there, and I think he's right on the money. And I think it's a great fight. And Errol Spence, I like the guy. I think he's a great fighter. And Mikey Garcia, I think he's a great fighter. So you know what? We're going to see 2 great fighters get in the ring. So that's what this whole sport's about. That's what runs it. That's what generates it. That's when we know that boxing is always here to stay, because that's the kind of fight that we live to see.
Okay, so last week, or it might have been the week before, I asked for some top 10s last week I asked for current pound for pound top 10s. My man Coach, who keeps Sal and myself straight, thank God for Coach in the chat room. He says his top 10. Now this is current fighters. Vasily Lomachenko number 1, Terrence Crawford numero 2. Before I move on, I'm in agreement. I could put either one of these at 1 and 2, flip-flop them, and quite honestly, I have them tied for number 1. But Coach has
I think it's a great call.
Well, Coach has Lomachenko number 1, TC number 2, Triple G number 3. He says, I do have him over Canelo, as I had Triple G winning both fights because he's got Canelo at number 4, Usyk at number 5, Mikey Garcia at number 6. You know, I'm so glad Coach has Garcia in this mix because a lot of people forget Garcia, and I don't understand. Sirikat Sor Rungzavai at number 7. This was the guy that beat, what's his name there, Kid Chocolate twice, Chocolate. Miguel Burcha, number 8. Errol Spence, number 9. And Naoya Inoue at number 10. He says, I have number 1 and 2 very close, almost interchangeable. Okay, Coach agrees with us. And he says he's got Garcia ahead of a skilled Spence because of the much larger body of work. And I agree. He says Joshua's not listed only because I don't rate heavyweights in this classification as pound for pound, and neither do I, Coach. So great top 10, current pound. What do you think of his top 10, Sal?
I think it was great. I thought maybe you could slip Deontay Wilder in there somewhere.
First of all, you don't even say that. Deontay Wilder may be a knockout puncher, but he's certainly not pound for pound. He has no skill set, no defense. But we don't even I and I guess Coach agrees with me. Does not include heavyweights because pound for pound was basically invented for every weight class but heavyweight. But
you were so right, so correct. You guys are right on again, man. I'll tell you. You don't automatically assume that a heavyweight champion is the ruler of the world with his skills or set or punch or whatever. But yes, so that's where they came out with the term pound for pound because they couldn't all be heavyweights. So let's look at each individual fighter in each weight class, who is the best that would overall be perspective. If they could be 175 pounds, they'd still be the best because of this reason. If they were 118, they'd still be the best because of this reason. I mean, that's how I look at pound.
Well, first of all, when we only had one world, you had the heavyweight world champion. He was the best on the planet. Now there's several worlds, several titles. But the whole idea of pound for pound in my mind is if you take a fighter's attributes, his strengths and weaknesses, and you carry them, that's the only thing that moves with the fighter, and then you move him up and down into different weight classes. Would he still be the best? And the answer, that's how you get these pound for pound. In a heavyweight division, especially the best example is you take a guy like Vladimir Klitschko or AJ or even Deontay Wilder's a good example. They got this height, they got this punching power, they got this strength. Now, if you lower a Deontay Wilder down to welterweight or middleweight, well, he's not going to have any height advantage. He may be tall and lanky, but he's not going to outweigh, and in Wilder's case, it's not the case in heavyweight, but like Tyson Fury's not going to outweigh somebody in the middleweight division because you have a weight limit. Deontay Wilder in any other weight class gets slapped around like the redheaded stepchild. But anyway, let's continue. I'm not going to let you respond because I know I know you got the Deontay Wilder underwear on right now. But this is from my man Mitch. He says this is Billy C's top 10 hated list. Let's see what he says. Number 10. He's counting down. It's like the old Johnny Carson show. Number 10, Mark Kriegel. not a boxing guy. Billy doesn't think he knows a left hook from a fish hook. This is so true. I actually brought him up today. Alex, he's our literary specialist here in our Billy C. Boxing family, and that's why he likes Mark Kriegel. But my man Mitch is right on with that. Not a big fan. Number 9, Keith Thurman Jr., more of a track guy than a boxer. No one-time knockouts in 4 years, and that guy suspiciously quit. No legit KO in 6 years. He's 100% right. I've lost a lot of respect for Keith Thurman. Number 8, Adrian Broner. He says no explanation needed. You know, the sad thing about Adrian Broner is I don't really hate him. I just think it's a wasted talent. Unlike when Larry Hazard was part of the show, he and I disagreed. Dax disagrees with me. Adrian Broner was such a talented fighter in the lower weights. When his dedication went away and he started fighting in bigger weights, that's when he really became an idiot. But number 7, he's got Sergey Kovalev. Billy believes in Andre Ward's low blows and thinks Sergey quit. I do think Sergey Kovalev quit in that fight. So do you, Sal. Andre Ward did hit him low. I think Andre Ward was a talented fighter, but he just wasn't a household name. And then all of a sudden he thought who he was. I got to be honest, I was never a big fan of Andre Ward. Never. I like him as a commentator. I think he's really good. But Kovalev, number 7, I don't really hate him, but I'll take it there. Here's one for you. Number 6, Adelaide Bird. No one's paid attention to the 4 or 5 terrible scorecards she's had after the Triple G debacle. Number 5, Saul Alvarez. Billy soured on him after failing 2 drug tests, blaming it on the meat, and then not showing for the hearing while hiding behind Oscar's comments. This is so true. Mitch knows me like a book, and I hope he knows me like my book. Mitch, you better have read my book. But in any event, Saul Canelo Alvarez, no one was a bigger fan of his than me. I have totally did an about first. There's nothing likable about him anymore. He's got this attitude about him that he's like the super stud jock in high school that walks around thinking who he is. That's Saul Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah. You know what? You hit that on the head too.
Yep. Number 4, Andre Rozier. I had to look at him in the corner. He's a trainer. He's a trainer that thinks he's a psychiatrist. Billy doesn't think he knows a left hook from a fish hook. He does know boxing. I just don't like his style, and I don't like him. But that's just my opinion. Number 3, we're getting close to the top. Mario Ronaldo. Billy thinks this guy takes Ritalin 10 minutes before airtime and stands in the mirror each night practicing choreographed, predictable, ill-timed, not off-the-cuff analogies and smiles. Oh, what's he saying? I guess he means and simulates when to use them when calling the fights. No one says how many times he's been to Japan or he's hitting that body like there's candy going to come out of it. Then Ronaldo, he's the worst. No one comes close to him. He is absolutely the worst blow-by-blow guy the history of boxing has ever seen. I know he comes from WWE. That's where he should go back to. Can't stand him. He's actually should be number 1 on this list. Number 2, Floyd Mayweather Jr., guy who is the scum of the earth, who hasn't yet, but one day will truly learn his lesson the worst way possible. Domestic cases at least 10, notwithstanding. My man Mitch is right. He is the scum of the earth, and I can't stand him. He's number 1, in my opinion. But the number 1 guy that he says is my worst is that gutless, spineless piece of garbage, Bob Bennett. Maybe the most corrupt commission in boxing, maybe. He says rejects decent opponents for A-side guys because they're inferior, but then approves Floyd Mayweather Jr. against an MMA guy with 0 experience. Also excused Adelaide Bird for having an off night. And Mitch says 110, 118, 110 for Alvarez. Really, Bob?
Yeah,
But,
right.
Great list. Great list from Mitch. He goes on to say, I'm not sure if these will change, but I'll give you another 10 months of the year, and they'll still be top 2. This is Billy C. According to Mitch, Billy C's top 3 businessmen of 2019, and some disturbing stories. A disturbing story. He says, number 1, Daniel Jacobs signs a deal for $15 million to fight Alvarez. If he loses, he's guaranteed 2 fights that will earn him at least $4 million per fight. He wins and becomes a $50 million man. This just goes to show you, and Mitch is right, this just goes to show you how they structure this, because they know that they're not going to, unless Daniel Jacobs knocks out Saul Alvarez, he's not going to win this fight. It's sad how boxing works today. He says in reality, Jacobs is probably worth $850,000 to $1.5 million per fight. Good decision to leave PBC for HBO. Great decision to pick DAZN. There ain't anyone in the PBC getting $15 million, and definitely no B-sides. There ain't nobody minus Pacquiao in the PBC even making a minimum of $8 million in 2 fights. So I have to agree with Mitch here. It's a good business move, Sal.
Yes, I agree.
Number 2 best businessmen of 2019, Jarrell Miller. Here's a guy who's done nothing, yet he's about to fight Anthony Joshua in New York in June, which is he's going to make, I think I heard, $5.4 million. He says number 3 is to be determined. He says, but speaking of Jacobs, I find the news that he's getting $4 million in each of his next 2 fights kind of disturbing. Saul Alvarez already gets the advantages. He's the new Mayweather of Vegas. Jacobs has to win 9 rounds to cleanly beat him. The story, he attached me a story. He says, basically they're saying if, meaning when you lose to Jacobs, you're still going to make $8 million in 2 fights as a consolation. It's almost as if they, meaning Team Canelo, are saying that out of guilt. They're like, if you win 8 rounds, we're still going to give it to Canelo. So here's $8 million in hush money afterwards if you follow us. So money-wise, Daniel Jacobs is going to be making out pretty well. He hit it on the head, Sal.
Yeah, I think he did very well. The only one that you're not going to like this. The only one in the other list that I disagree with, or I shouldn't even say disagree, I give a pass on, is your buddy Mauro Ranallo. And I'll tell you what.
Don't tell me because of his depression and all of that. I don't want to hear it. Everybody goes through it. And you know what? I don't want to hear it. Please. And I'm serious. You know what? That's been getting all kinds of PR and everything. I don't care.
They did a whole show on him.
I don't care. I mean, I understand they did. But I don't care that he does it. You know what? Everybody in this Sal, you and I talk about this all the time off the air. This country, this world has become so soft. We're a bunch of softies. Everybody's got a problem.
All the time.
I'm depressed. Oh, here, take some meds. Now you're even worse. I don't care. But you know what? I'm moving on. I have another email here. This one's the last top 10. This was from my man Johnston. You could catch his column up on BillyCBoxing.com. Here's his current pound-for-pound. I don't care, Sal. I don't care about Ronaldo. All right? I don't care if he's crying in the mirror. I don't care if they're wiping his tears during the damn broadcast. I don't care. You get it? All right.
Forget about it.
I'm sending you an email. You know what the topic's going to be? I don't care. Here's Johnston's top 10 pound for pound. He says, you asked for pound, here's mine. Lomachenko number 1, Crawford number 2, Usyk number 3, Canelo, reluctantly, he says, he's putting at number 4, Triple G at number 5, Mikey Garcia at number 6, Rungvisai at number 7, Inoue at number 8, Errol Spence at number 9, and he figured he would throw a Brit in there, Callum Smith at number 10. He says Miguel Burchard and Leo Santa Cruz just misses out. Looking forward to the show. Thanks for your pound for pound. Very good ones as well, Johnston.
Very good.
And Leo Santa Cruz, you almost forget about Leo Santa Cruz. But next week, Sal, we got some good fights. We're going to be talking about Gervonta Tank Davis taking on Abner Mares. That's a good fight. Abner Mares is tough, wants to prove he's moving up in weight. And Gervonta Davis is a fighter we all think is talented.
Very talented.
Love this fight. That'll be on next week.
Who's he fighting?
Abner Mares.
Oh yeah.
And then on a weird day, on Sunday, I guess it's going to fall on a Sunday, Jose Ramirez against Jose Zepeda, and Ray Beltran against Hiroki Okadata. So maybe that fight's in Japan. I don't know. But both of the fights will be on television here in the U.S. Showtime for the Davis fight and ESPN for the Ramirez fight. I don't care about Memorial Ronaldo, Sal. I just don't care. Just in case you were wondering. But
I was wondering. I was.
But anyway, we got some great fights coming up next week. And I know it sounds bad because in all seriousness, depression is a serious issue for people. But as far as Memorial Ronaldo, I don't care. But in any event. Hey, listen, we were glad you guys shared our day. And we look forward to you next time. So make sure you tune in next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.